Okay, I think the be more vulnerable crowd needs a bit of a marketing makeover. And in this video, I'm going to attempt to give an alternative view to what being vulnerable means and why it's actually a fundamentally masculine thing. That was really awkward. Anyway, I think being vulnerable is often interpreted as, and even intended by someone saying it as, like, basically talking about something that might make you cry. Like, that's kind of how it gets viewed. Like, oh, be vulnerable. Like, what? You want me to talk about something that hurt me in the past and I feel bad about it or something? Like, that's kind of how it feels. And I think along with that, there's this idea that being vulnerable is basically showing how weak you are in a particular way, and then just kind of hanging out there, and that you are then just perpetually vulnerable. Okay, now the rewrite on that is that being vulnerable is a highly masculine trait that comes very naturally to boys and men. And I'm gonna throw a few examples out of ways that boys and men are regularly practicing being vulnerable. One of them would be doing risky things. That is literally being vulnerable. Doing something, climbing a tree and going up as high as you can. That's being vulnerable. Strength training or exercise in general. That is a practice of being vulnerable. Getting into some sort of fight, like if you're practicing jujitsu, that is a practice of vulnerability. Okay? Now, you're asking what makes those things being vulnerable? I mean, yeah, obviously if you're doing something risky, you are literally vulnerable, but that's not what they're talking about, right? Well, it kind of is, actually. So being vulnerable is exposing yourself to the edge of your capacity, to something that might that has a good chance of not necessarily of harming you, but there's a risk there of harm, and you might not be able to control the outcome. That's the risky part. I'm going to do something that is at my edge, where I'm not able to guarantee an outcome. I am playing with this edge. Okay? And living at that edge is how we make the most progress, because your edge is what tells your body, hey, I need to grow in order to meet this new way of being. So if you are practicing some skill, let's say you wanted to, it doesn't matter. You want to get better at archery or something. You're going to practice as close to your edge of ability that you can. And that is the place where you want to be, where progress happens. Because by exposing yourself to the edge of your capacity, the biology here will naturally want to catch up. Same thing with strength training. You train at that edge where you're either almost at the point where you can't go any further, or you literally go to the point where you can't go any further. And that is what tells the whole system here, hey, you need to level up in order to exist in this place. If you want to be close to this edge, we're going to have to get better, because this is a place where we are not yet strong enough, where we're not yet capable enough. And so I think that is a more appropriate way of viewing the topic of vulnerability. Now, okay, then the question is, can I safely bring it back to closer to the realm that people are more likely to use that term? A lot of people use it in reference to, say, a conversation. Be more vulnerable in your relationship with somebody else. Okay. And I do absolutely think it applies there. And the way it applies there is if you are being a genuine version of you, you're putting yourself out there in such a way that you have not preemptively built a wall around yourself to protect you. You're putting yourself out and saying, hey, this is me. That may hurt your feelings. That may cause some problem for me, but I choose to be just me because I know that in the end, in the long run, this is better for me. This is actually being the way that is in alignment with myself and with my values. That's vulnerable. Saying something that could piss somebody off or offend them, that is vulnerable. Now, not doing it on purpose, not doing it, hey, I want to trigger you. That's not being vulnerable. That's just being a dick. But if you put yourself out there unapologetically, without shame, then that is being vulnerable. And by doing that, by being at that edge continuously, that is what's going to inspire the most growth. Because every time you do it, you tell your body, you tell this whole system here, okay, get a little better. And then the next time you do it, you are one step further, and being a little better was going to take you that much farther. And so you just keep doing that, and that is growth. So being vulnerable really is the inspiration. It is what spurs growth. And obviously we want to grow, continue to grow, and get better. You don't want giant blind spots in your life where you haven't grown since high school. That's something that I'm dealing with. That as you insulate yourself from that edge, as you avoid being at that edge, you stop growth there. It means, no more. You're gonna sit right where you are, just like strength training. If you don't approach the edge of your abilities, you're not gonna get stronger, period. And so we have a distinct need to live at our edge. Otherwise, you stop growing. And if you split timelines here, and I had one version of myself that was uncomfortable and afraid of that edge, and so didn't push it, and then another version of me that was living life at that edge in as many ways as possible, those two people grow to be very different adults. They accomplish much different levels of things, and to me there's no competition. It's like, the person that is living at that edge is always growing and is going to go further and get access to more. And then for the kicker, for me anyway, the crazy part about this is that at some point we got convinced that being at that edge was not okay. And so we wrote it off almost as like, being farther from the edge is preferable, is better for us. But not only is it not better because you're not growing, it's not as fun. It's not exciting. It's not fun. In fact, it's a lot of worrying. It's a lot of being in your head. It's a lot of being awkward and, premeditating everything. And it's Yeah, it's just flat out not fun. And I think there's a lot there because the concept of fun, it seems unimportant or seems silly or unproductive. But I actually think it's one of our most powerful compasses for, hey, what produces the most and best results and leads us to where a place that we actually want to be. And fun should get us there. That's what it's designed for. That's why we enjoy it. It's like, how did we get to the point where we vilify fun, and we think that something that is fun and exciting is a bad place to go, or that it should be separate from the rest of our life? Like, oh, you might take a little bit of time to have fun, but then the rest of the time you need to get back to work. But if you watch little kids, they live at that edge. They're always at the edge of their ability, and they're always right there. And you know that they're at their edge because they're constantly failing. It's like a regular part of being any little kid. I've got a 1.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old, and so I see it constantly with them. They're living at their edge of ability, and they're constantly failing, which means they are growing incredibly quickly. Every day is just a mountain of new information for them that they get to integrate and use to get better. The next day, they're building on it. And so it's a period of incredible growth. And, for me, the vulnerable share right now is that I recognize how I have lost sight of my edge in a lot of ways, where there are a lot of aspects of my life where I have not been growing. I have not been at the fun and exciting edge of my ability, where it generates its own momentum, and I just go and grow, and I have insulated myself from a lot of the potential for failure. And so, in a lot of ways, I created stagnation for myself, slowed myself down. And in the process, I've created the need for a lot of posturing and a lot of defensive work, where I have to try and project the image of somebody that has grown in what am I trying to think of? In replacement of the actual growth. So not only did I lose a lot of the intrinsic, oh, this is fun and exciting motivation, but I replaced it with a lot of work that I have to do to try and pretend that I've made that growth. And that's just, that's just what it is. And I kind of came face to face with that last night when I was doing the singing and all that, where I just had to be honest with myself, and it wasn't even I didn't even have shame when I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's the phrase, you've lost your edge. That's it. Like, I lost sight of my edge. I backed away from it so that the edge was way far away, and I could see things coming that way. Like, it felt safer. But instead, all it did was slow down the growth. And so now I'm thinking to myself, okay, how do I live at that edge? How do I reclaim it and get back to a point where the thing that I'm doing really is exciting and fun, because I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not spending a lot of time and energy on trying to manufacture an outcome that I can predict, right? And instead, be front of the line and having life hit me directly, as opposed to trying to step back and trying to see it coming and keep everything really predictable and safe. So, vulnerability, that's where we started. To me, being vulnerable is living at that edge, and thus allowing life to be directly here, and and not and not just slowing everything down and pushing back and resisting and trying to pad life before it hits you. And so I think that's a masculine thing to put the bow on it. I think it is a masculine trait to live at the edge and to be pushing that boundary constantly. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect about it, but I'm just saying that it's not a trait that is anti-masculine, which I think it's interpreted that way a lot. It's seen as something that is pushed on men by women, like you should be more vulnerable. And somewhere in there, we got this weird impression about vulnerability that took it out of the sphere of masculinity, and it felt like something from the outside, when in fact, I think it's something that is core to being a boy or a man. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you.